All right.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet Science MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the guards cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. They ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm about wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
Welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. I am your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson. Fellas, how's it going?
Going good. Almost Friday.
How's it going, Steve?
Same here. Same here. Getting ready for these fights this weekend.
Yes, indeed. It kind of snuck up on us. You got UFC 302 this weekend. But before we get into that, let's talk about some news stories inside or outside of the cage. I know some came across your feed, Admire. Any that stood out more than any others in particular?
Yeah, the one that me and you kind of jinxed on yesterday. We messaged each other right at the same time. Nick Diaz making his return to the UFC. I mean, a lot of people are talking about it, excited about it, but not me. I mean, dude hasn't fought in the UFC for what, 3 years? Never been the best fighter. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's, fun to watch, talk shit and whatnot, but that's just a weird one. Bringing him in against Luque.
Yeah, it's another story that broke out around the same time. Tony Ferguson is also going to be fighting on that Abu Dhabi card. He's going to be fighting. Who is he fighting that card? Not Corey Sandhagen. He's fighting.
Oh, I seen it. Yeah,
Michael Chiesa. I don't know why it slipped my mind. He's fighting Michael Chiesa on that card. So we got two wily veterans in Nick Diaz and also Tony Ferguson coming back to fight on this Abu Dhabi card. Who do you think is a must win for more, Nick Diaz or Tony Ferguson? I'll start with you, Admire.
I don't even think that Nick Diaz is in the conversation. It don't matter if he wins or loses. I just think it's really weird that the UFC's bringing him in. Nick Diaz hasn't won a fight since 2011. He beat BJ Penn at UFC 137, and then he's went on to lose to Conduit, St. Pierre, no contest with Anderson Silva, which he lost anyway, and he lost to Robbie Lawler. So he hasn't won a fight in 13 years. Luque is ranked at number 14 in the welterweight. Like, what kind of sense does this make? So, I mean, there's no implications with it. I don't care about that fight. This is a must-win for Tony Ferguson. I mean, can you even guess how many fight losing streak he's on right now?
Nah, tell me.
I'm going to pull it up. I think the last time we checked it was like 7.
That's insane.
He is on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight losing streak. His last one was the Patty Pimblett one at 296.
That's super crazy. What are your thoughts on this, Steve? Who do you think is a must win for?
Since Nick Diaz is popping out of the blue, I mean, I think that's telling that it's really not needy. Maybe for him personally, but I just don't see him taking it seriously, trying to make a championship run. What I am going to ask a question on is, I know his last fight was middleweight, so I think Luque's welterweight. So, I wonder what shape he's going to try to get back down to that weight, since it's been years probably. He's been only fighting middleweights, Anderson Silva, and then that last fight, Robbie Lawler. I think this is a welterweight fight, so that's interesting. I would like to see.
I think the fight with Robbie Lawler was welterweight. I think
it was.
Yeah, it was. But for some reason, I thought Nick Diaz had a bunch of fights at 185, but he hasn't. Like he fought Anderson Silva at 185, but he's had some catch weights at 180. But for some reason, I was thinking that too. I thought that he fought middleweight for a while. But I remember when him and Jason Miller had beef, and Diaz would never go up to middleweight to fight him, though. So,
Yeah, I mean, what do you think Diaz's motivation is at this point to come back? Because he looked terrible in that last fight. I think
money.
Money, huh?
Money. It's a cash grab. Like, it's, I think the Diaz brothers have always had a good relationship with Dana, and it's probably a way to get him back some money, maybe get his name out there. I know I default to this all the time. Put Nick Diaz in one fight in the UFC and everybody's got eyes on him. Take him over to bare knuckle.
So you think at this stage of his career, Nick Diaz would go to bare knuckle?
I think if the money was right, he would. And I mean, he's a brawler. Nick and Nate like to stand and trade, and they can take a lot of damage. I mean, a bare knuckle might be a good game for him. I mean, personally, I don't think he should take any more hits to the head if you've heard him talk in the last couple of years. But I mean, I think that would be the game for him. He's supposed to be great on the ground. He's done some cool shit on the ground, but his bread and butter is usually his boxing. Punches and bunches. He can eat one to give one.
But I get what you're saying, but also, what do you think? Because we never seen Nick Diaz like cold knock somebody out. It's always been punches and bunches. So you think a guy like that needs to be taking bare knuckle punches to the head when it's like a Mike Perry could get somebody out of there quick. So,
Yeah, I mean, Nick has a lot of TKOs. It is punches and bunches and all that. Maybe that's what somebody needs to try in bare knuckle. In bare knuckle, they're always swinging for the fences, looking for that highlight knockout. Maybe they need a pressure fighter.
I don't know. Steve, what do you think his motivation is at this point to still be in it?
I could say the only thing he knows is, MMA the most. I could say unless he was a champion because I could say Mike Paris doesn't have the stardom that Nick Diaz would have if he went to bare knuckle. And I would say bare knuckle, saying he's an interest, he would be a higher paid interest of the repertoire they would have versus Nick Diaz coming back just for one UFC fight. I would say he would either get paid the same or more if Dana has a real close relationship to where he's cutting a check to him. But I can see partly money, but I can also partly see, because I think he works with children and jiu-jitsu, and going out like that last fight, he probably picked up some inspiration to get back in there. And who knows if he has a fight left on his contract to end.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look to see how his contract looks. I mean, before that fight, what was this, 2 years ago now he fought his last fight?
3 years.
Man, that was 3 years ago. Before that, he didn't fight since 2015, Anderson Silva. So I'd be curious to see how many fights he has left on that contract. Who knows? But I don't expect much out of him in this run. Like I said, again, he looked terrible in his last fight. But, he still got that name of Diaz, even though I think Nate surpassed him in, like, popularity. I mean, but it's not even a pay-per-view, which is the weird thing. It's a fight night in Abu Dhabi. That's a head scratch. It's going to be on ABC, so I guess you could get him the popular ratings on ABC. I don't know how much that weighs in this year now, in the year of 2024, but I don't know. It's just an interesting move by him.
Yeah, I mean, I just did a quick search, and somebody said that he has 5 fights left on his UFC contract. So if he's under that many fight contract with the UFC and has been, Dana has to keep them fighting or release them. And I guess at that point, with inactive, he's been, it's kind of his call when he gets to fight. You know, the UFC has to put him on something if he says, "Hey, I'm under contract, I want to fight," or they got to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is what it is. Once the fight night approaches, I'll watch it. But like I said, I'm not expecting much out of this guy. And you said he's cool with Dana White and whatnot, Amire?
Yeah, I think the Diaz brothers have always been cool with him. They got that good fighting style. They carry a good name. Always put on exciting stuff. So, I mean, I imagine they're in Dana's good graces.
Yeah, just an interesting fight. Well, in other news, we got another soundbite from Sean Strickland. We'll be talking about his actual fight, later on in the show. But I don't know if y'all saw this, him talking about Tom Brady's Netflix special.
I didn't see it. No, what'd he say?
So, I guess it was in that media day press conference. I'm gonna try to paraphrase this because I don't want to say everything that he said on here. So he said Tom Brady, and he says he's a see you next Tuesday, and everybody knows who that is. And then he also said he was basically making fun of that Tom Brady got mad that they talked about his wife. And Strickland said, "You signed up to be made fun of, and you can't handle it." And he said he handled it like a woman. He handled it like a girl. And he said, "You go and post gay photos of yourself." And he told him to man the fuck up. And basically to shut up that he's being made fun of by comedians, and he called him a pussy. So, what are y'all thoughts on this outburst by Sean Strickland?
I mean, the dude's gonna say anything about anybody. I mean, whatever. Like, what are you gonna do, Sean? You gonna go fight Tom Brady? You know?
Steve?
Well, we've seen he's been vocal ever since he's got that stardom spot. So I guess he's using it wisely and calling big names out and talking trash, which is keeping him in the tabloid. So I can say he's interjected himself into, the daily pop culture talk.
So I have a bigger question though. We all know that Sean Strickland has these type of outbursts, and it's just how he rolls. It's most likely it's probably how he really feels is authentic. It's definitely more authentic than Kobe Covington. So he has his like diehard niche fan base who will ride or die, whatever he says. Do y'all think this is holding him back from becoming a more mainstream star? Because, like I said, he has that rabid, but it's kind of like a niche fan base that'll ride with him. But do you think this is like holding him back from being like on a level like a GSP? Like, you never heard these bites from GSP or Anderson Silva. They kind of let the fight style speak for themselves, and they're able to propel themselves into the limelight. So do y'all think Sean Strickland's kind of isolating himself and holding himself back from taking that next step in the mainstream level? I'll start off with you, Admire.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, he says a lot of shit that, the UFC can't back and promote and stuff like that. But, he seems like a guy that came from kind of like an underprivileged life. So even the fame that he's at now is way more than he ever had. So I think he's content. And it's almost a way of the people that do stick with him and ride with him, they're true fans or true friends because they're sticking with him. He doesn't, want the fair weather fans. He wants just the people that are like him or, whatever. It's almost like a kind of like a Donald Trump thing. You have, the diehards and then, not really much else. So I think he likes playing that part of the bad guy. and having the hardcores follow him instead of everybody.
Steve?
Yeah, I think based off of how he articulates himself, he's a hit and miss. Sometimes he might say the right things. Sometimes he misses and it comes off, not popular opinion. Nonetheless, I don't think it affects him that too much if he knows how to hone his, so to speak, what he has is speech power.
So what I don't really understand is you might have your beliefs in your personal life. Is keeping it real worth it that much, quote unquote, keeping it real? Because even if you might not agree with a certain community or certain people's lifestyles, isn't it better just to, at least at the very least, just don't say anything about it? Because what if there's a gay fan out there that actually likes your fighting style and would support you, and then you go out there and saying all this wild stuff? Like, I feel like he's losing money. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Admire?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but like, I don't know. I think some of the stuff that he says, even though it might be against gay people, a gay fan might still like him and agree that, there are some gay people that are over the top, or, they don't need to be as flashy and flamboyant. I just think that you have so many different types of people out there that, yeah, he's going to push some away, but he's also going to pull some in. But I think that's just, he's content with it. That he knows that he's not going to get any bigger than he is. That's why he stays relevant, talking crazy shit.
Steve?
Yeah, I feel like when you sign up to any job or corporation, you sign up to their rules, regulations, and through growth, and sometimes depending on what corporation you're under, I guess you teeter in the balance of a man to what you stand up for, whether the person's right or wrong. And I guess that's what everybody teeters with. Is some people feel the plight to be heard, and I guess that's Sean Strickland, because obviously, past podcasts, Theo, he has a lot of hidden pain and an opinion to say about society. So I think, like I said, I think you have a choice to teeter down if you're under a company and know what they will allow, or choose what you stand for and sacrifice, your money.
Yeah, I don't know. If I was a fighter, especially, how fighter pay has not been most favorable to a lot of the fighters, I would just try to get fans from every different corner of life, no matter what I believe, so I can maximize my profit. But, I guess money doesn't mean everything to some people. But I just found it interesting. But Admire, any other stories run across your new feed?
Not really MMA related. I've seen a couple boxing things come across. Have you heard about the 5 USA versus 5 Mexican that they're trying to put together?
What's going on with that?
So it's like 5 USA fighters will go against 5 boxing. So it was like Canelo and somebody, Caleb Plant, somebody, Tank Davis and somebody. Like, they're trying to set it up, man. If they did something like that, it would just be insane. It came across one of my news things earlier, but I just thought that was pretty cool. But not a lot on the MMA side. Maybe one thing on the MMA side is the fight coming up this weekend. A lot of people have been saying Makhachev has staph infection. There's a picture from one of the pre-fight picture things, and he's got a big spot on his leg. And I think McGregor was the first to call it out, but a lot of news places are running with it, saying that he possibly has staph infection in his leg.
So hold that thought. We will come back to that once we preview the main event. But let's go back to your boxing news story about that 5-on-5. So we have a fight coming up. Was it in a few weeks? It was supposed to be headlined by B-Ball, uh, but B-Ball got hurt, and so no, B-Ball didn't get hurt. Uh, I forgot what happened with the fight that fell through, but it's supposed to be for that undisputed heavyweight. I mean, not heavyweight, light heavyweight crown. It's supposed to be B-Ball versus Better Beef. I think Better Beef got hurt, and so I think B-Ball is taking somebody else. But on the undercard, it's supposed to be that 5-on-5 heavyweight, like little tournament, team versus team, and Wilder's on it. And I think they're kind of, since even though B-Ball is still fighting, Wilder, I think they're kind of like elevating Wilder to be more of a spotlight on that. So it's a new concept, that they're trying to experiment with, having these gym versus gym, or promoter versus promoter. And like I said, they're doing it with the heavyweights. And that's interesting. You're saying they're doing USA versus Mexico.
Yeah, it's talks right now, but I mean, it would be really cool if they put something like that together. And then, I mean, in the month of June, you got Wilder coming up fighting. Tank Davis fights pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, we on our boxing episode, we had a preview of that fight coming up. So
yeah, Tank Davis, that's my favorite boxer, so I'll be tuned into that one for sure.
Yeah, so if this catches on, this might be the new wave of having team versus team. I don't see like what kind of consequences it will have. I think it's just a fun way to promote it. Like if we're on the same team and you lose your fight and I win my fight, it don't really affect me that much. Unless they put like some type of big pot on the line, where like the winning team gets an extra bonus. That would be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean they would have to with the names that I seen initially put on it. Everybody on there could headline their own card. Canelo, of course, Caleb Plant.
Yeah, Caleb Plant is always on the brink of like becoming not a household name, but like a bigger name. But he can never win like the big one, even though he's a former champion. But it's always somebody on top that's a little bit better than him. But I wouldn't be mad at that. But fellas, we got a card coming up this weekend. UFC 302 going down in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. And this is a place that UFC likes going to frequently. Not sure why, but I guess it's, that's that tri-state area. And it's close to New York, and they don't probably have to pay the prices that they would if they were to run MSG or Barclays. But, they saved the MSG for November. But you think they try to hit up Barclays a little bit more, but maybe it costs a lot to rent that out. But nonetheless, we got a fight coming up this weekend. And I don't know, this fight kind of snuck up on me. I mean, it's not a terrible card. It's solid. It's not like a mind-blowing card, but did y'all feel the hype going into this weekend surrounding this card?
It was like not even talked about, and then this week hit, and boom! I mean, it's all I see everywhere. It's all over the TikTok, Reddit, everywhere else. I mean, and a lot of people are putting their opinions out there on it. So, I mean, it's getting a lot of buzz. It should be good. I mean, the two main fights, of course, are bangers. One or two of the other, main card things. Undercard,
Steve?
Yeah, I say it's very mediocre. Just tipped above maybe a fight night excitement. But there's some people here, especially when you get past the prelims, of course. But I see people in the prelims that, of course, I think all of us would be interested in just by the name and where they're at. But I think we've seen worse this year, I think.
Yeah, I think that last card last month was a little worse than this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a strong main event, and then a solid co-main, and then it's decent cards underneath that. But I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the hype for this one, and Admar, you say it's been coming across your feed. Nothing has really been coming across my feed except a few like ESPN articles. I guess my algorithm is off because I haven't really been feeling the hype around this one. But I always get excited once that Saturday hits and I throw on the prelims and the blood gets flowing. But let's dive into some of these early prelims and prelims. So at flyweight, you have Mitch Raposo versus Andre Lima. At women's bantamweight, we have Aline Perez versus Jocelyn Edwards. And at welterweight, we have the infamous Mickey Gall versus Basil Hafiz. And then at the regular prelims, at the welterweight, we have Philip Rowe versus Jake Matthews. At lightweight, we have Grant Dawson versus Joe Selecki. At heavyweight, we got Jalton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov. That's a pretty quick turnaround for Almeida, if I'm not mistaken. And then the feature fight on the prelims, we have at middleweight Cesar Almeida versus Romy Kopylov. Any of these fights piques y'all interest?
I mean, for me, I'm definitely going to I probably won't watch it live, but I'll go back and search Mickey Gall just because, nostalgia of Mickey Gall and CM Punk. I'll go back and check it out. Jelson Almeida, he's ranked number 7 in the heavyweight. I mean, this is kind of a low spot for him, not even headlining the prelims, coming in at number 7, going against Romanov, number 13. I mean, this could really put somebody back up in there, setting them up for a title contender. So those are probably the ones I'm looking forward to the most. I mean, Kopilov's always good to watch. Should be a good one with Cesar Almeida. That's pretty much a pick 'em on that one, so it should be a decent fight.
Steve, you interested in any of these fights?
Definitely. I was just looking right now. Kopylov, he was on the rise until his last fight. He lost to Hernandez, but a good striker, I believe. I think he got by what was it, a submissioner or something like that. But very interesting fighter, of course. Alton Almeida. Wonder if Cesar Almeida. I wonder if they're related. If they had up the same careers. I've seen
same careers, same name,
like
Brazil.
Gilbert Burns. I never knew Gilbert Burns and his younger brother was Burns until they said Herbert Burns, I think is his name. And I was like, I wondered if they were brothers. Turns out they were. So I wondered because they're Brazil. But let's see. Yeah. Phil Rowe, I've seen him. I think I remember his last fight. His name is, yep, that's right. It was Neil Magny. And Nico Price is on the same card, and he got a win. So I like how UFC throws people that beat each other recently, or and have them on the same card. I guess that's where they have the system, I guess. But I'll be interested in him too. But that's about it.
So I think Almeida may be like it's a common name like Smith because I don't see anything about them being related. And there's like some they're Magomedovs in the UFC that aren't even related. So
it was like Tafa too, the Tafa brothers. That happened like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they're related. So I'm definitely interested in that Jalton Almeida fight. He just lost against Curtis Blades back in March, UFC 299. And there was a lot of hype behind Almeida. He's young for the heavyweight division, even though he's 32. And the hype train kind of slowed down after the Curtis Blades fight. So do you think this fight against Romanov is kind of like a crossroads fight for him? I'll start off with you.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, just to kind of make sure that he's still got it, throwing someone against him that's, ranked, but ranked quite a bit lower. I think it's a kind of, let's see if you still really got it. Let's get your confidence back with a win, maybe. and then let's talk about moving you up again.
Steve, what do you think?
I think so. Although he's a dangerous fighter, to be taken serious as that next up and comer and not being a gatekeeper, especially I think if he loses this one, because I'm looking at Ramanom's background, it don't look too good for Almeida to be losing to him. So I think this fight is important considering somebody that's not has the background as he does.
Yeah, so anything can happen in the heavyweight division if you lose, because it's probably the most shallow division in the whole UFC. But you don't want to take those losses at this stage of your career when you're probably trying to shoot for a title match, because I remember before he lost to Blaze, people were like, who should get a title fight out of him or Aspinall? I mean, clearly Aspinall has kept his position. He's the interim heavyweight champion, I guess, and he's taking a fight against Blaze. I don't know how smart that is before John Jones comes back, but still, I definitely think this is a crucial win for Almeida. Like I said, if he does lose, it'll be bad, but it won't be like career ending. But I definitely think this is a crossroads fight, and I expect them to get the win and to prove that the hype was real. But let's get into the main card, fellas. So going into this card, the records for this year, Admire's 20-13. I'm 21-12, and Steve is 17-16. So this may be the card where Steve catches back up. We'll see. But the curtain jerker for this one at welterweight is Randy Brown versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Admire, I'm going to let you kick it off. What do you think about this fight?
I honestly don't recall if I have ever seen either one of these guys fight. I'm sure I have, probably on the prelim somewhere. I'm going pure odds on this one. I'm going with Randy Brown.
What are the odds on this?
Randy Brown minus 180, and Dos Santos is the underdog at plus 150.
Plus 150, you said, is Brown?
Plus 150 is Dos Santos.
So it's pretty much a pick 'em.
It's pretty close.
Steve, who you at?
Yeah, I'm definitely going for Randy Brown. Looked sharp his last fight. Shot a precision right down the middle, and looks very sharp. Footwork and everything always looks unintimidated, unbacked up. He always keeps his position. From what I've seen him lately in the octagon, I'll have to go for Randy Brown. He's looking pretty good lately.
And Emma, you said you had Randy Brown as well?
Yeah.
I guess I'll go with the majority. I'll go for Randy Brown to keep his winning streak going, push it to 3 fights in a row. Let's get into this next fight at welterweight. Nico Price versus Alex Morono. Admire, who you got in this one?
Man, there's a couple ways you could look at this one. Nico Price has lost 4 of his last 6. He's kind of on that line of maybe getting cut with a loss. He's been around the UFC for quite a while, man. Like 8 years. But I don't know. Alex Morono has some decent wins. He's beat Court McGee, Tim Means, but he's lost to Buckley, lost to Ponzinibbio. Give me Alex on this one, and the odds are definitely in his favor as well. Alex is a minus 265. Nico Price at a plus 215.
plus 215 for Nico Price. And minus 2, what for Morono?
265.
265. Steve?
This is a kind of tough one because I haven't too much kept tabs on Morono. But I don't have confidence in Nico either, considering he's been getting knocked out lately. I'll take my chances with Nico. He's a good fighter. It's just his jaw is susceptible, and he leaves open. And I wish I knew Morono and his fighting style, which I can probably tell the fight a little bit more. But I'll go with Nico with what I know.
Okay. Going with Nico. Amar is going with Morono, so I guess I'm the swing pick in this one. Yeah, not good for Nico Price getting knocked out by Robbie Lawler in his last fight. And he got knocked out by Philip Rowe. But, you know, fighters kind of get in desperation mode when they go on these losing streaks. And it's not too often where you see 3 in a row. But I think we see 3 in a row in this instance. And I'm going to go with Morono as well to keep his win streak going after beating Court McGee back in April. So that's a quick turnaround for Morono as well. Let's talk about this next fight, fellas. In the middleweight division, we got Kevin Holland versus Michael Olejniczak. Amar, I'm going to let you kick this one off.
Man, I'm always the guy that bets against Kevin Holland, and he always pulls off a win when I bet against him. We just saw him fight MVP a couple months ago. I thought that Holland looked really good in that fight. You know, both him and Michael have alternated losses. Like Holland will win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 2. Well, Michael's done that. He's lost his last one before that, lost. They both got some decent wins, man. Every time I bet against him, he wins. So I'm going Kevin Holland, and he's a heavy favorite too. I didn't even see that, so I just said that.
What's the odds on it?
Kevin Holland is a minus 305 favorite to a plus 245. So I think the odds makers kind of know the way this one's going to go as well.
Steve?
Looking at the dude's fight history, that don't look too promising to me. Although Kevin Holland's been on a losing streak, unless he catches an injury, he took a damn good beating against Page. Yeah, as far as stuck him a few good times. I think he sticks in there to get the job done with a knockout.
That's all these quick turnarounds with these fighters can't be good. Just fighting, I guess by the time the fight starts, it'll be like 3 months. But after going in that kind of war with Michael Page, I feel like I'd take more time than that. But some fighters just like getting back in there. You had Holland too, Admire?
Yeah.
That fight feels like it was yesterday.
I know, right?
Holland and Page.
So Olejniczak just lost to Michelle Pereira also in March. Is this like by design something that the UFC is doing, having these fights, having a quick turnaround with these fighters like that?
I don't know. It almost seems like they told everybody. They told everybody, hey, you're fighting, and here in like 2 months, you're fighting again. Everybody. We're going to rerun it and just mix you guys up.
But I think I'm going to go with the odds on this one. Holland needs to kind of be in desperation mode. I mean, at this point, we basically have him in our eyes as a gatekeeper, which, like we always say, that's not a bad thing necessarily. But if he wants to make like a surprise push for the title, uh, we saw what happens with other fighters that seem like they're in the twilight in their career, but make a late push for the title. Michael Bisping or Jorge Masvidal, they made pushes for titles late in their career. If Holland wants to do the same thing, he needs to start like a new win streak. And I know he's a fighter that takes risk and doesn't mind doing short notice fights, but he needs to be a little bit more calculated in the fights he picks and chooses. But I expect him to be in desperation mode and pull off the fight this weekend, and I'm going to go with him as well. Now, fellas, starting to heat up now. Let's talk about the co-main event in this one. At the middleweight division, I guess this is pretty much a title eliminator. You have Sean Strickland versus Paulo Acosta. And we talked about the out-of-cage stuff for Strickland. Now we finally get into the in-cage stuff. Admire, what do you think about this one?
Man, there's so many thoughts on this one. I mean, one, Costa's only lost to like the best of the best. He's lost to Adesanya, Vettori, Whitaker. And then you have Strickland, who, he beat Izzy, right? I don't know, because what sticks in my mind is Sean Strickland's last fight against DDP. That, to me, was a stinker. Like, after we saw what Strickland did to Adesanya, we expected him to go in and kind of put up a better fight against DDP, and it just wasn't there. He couldn't string nothing together. Costa has power, has good takedowns, has just a little bit of everything. The odds have Strickland heavily favored. I'm going Costa. I think Costa is probably going to knock him out.
Oh, that's bold. What are the odds on this one?
We got Strickland as a minus 270 favorite and Costa as a plus 220 underdog.
Plus, you said Costa's a plus 122?
Costa's a plus 220.
Plus 220. And Strickland is minus
270.
They must know something. But you're going with Costa. Steve, what are your thoughts?
I think I'll be going with Costa too. I think this is a Styles matchup fight. And I think for what other people did to where they respected so to speak, each other's power. I think Paulo Costa's is his will with all these fighters. And I think once he rips which Costa does to the body or hits someone good, I think Costa's gonna gain his respect and end up getting that knockout. For real, we haven't seen Paulo Costa in jeopardy from a shot. The only thing I can know of besides Israel Adesanya. Yoel Romero, and I think he landed that, but they said that was a slip. But that's the only one, and I don't think Strickland has enough power to connect his combinations while Paulo Costa's ripping combinations. Almost every time he lets him go. I think Paulo Costa is going to, Amir said, is going to get a knockout or a TKO.
Well, so you think he's going to get the TKO? You think it's going to be early or late? Or
I think Strickland can last in there, but I think I think it may be the latter rounds, if not mid-second.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like second round, late in the second round. I mean, I think Strickland's just going to be outpowered. I don't think he's going to be able to put Costa on the fence and, keep the dirty boxing going. And I don't think he's going to be able to string the combinations together because Costa's a big dude and he's going to be winging them. If you get Paulo Costa in trouble, he's just going to start throwing. I just don't think Strickland can do it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm just tainted from the DDP fight. Like, I think of DDP and Costa as having kind of the same frame and body type, stature, and Strickland wasn't able to really impose anything on him. And I think it's going to be the same thing. I think that Costa's just going to, like you said, rip the body, wear him down, and eventually get a knockout or a TKO.
Plus, I agree. Plus, I also think the only time Costa for real has problems, real problems with people that do anything outside of boxing, like Strickland strictly playing up his alley when he's, I think, going toe to toe boxing, which I think Strickland, unless he's knows, if he wants to be hard headed or knows, like I think he's gonna get knocked out, or else he's gonna have to try to go for faking takedowns or mixing it up. Like you said, Paul Costa, I don't think you can just get a takedown off of him and keep him down.
Right. And we usually see Costa using his boxing, and he only has one submission win, but you forget that he's a black belt, man. Like, if Strickland did, I don't think Strickland wants to go to the ground with him either. So
he fought Rockholds, fighting with DC, look how that Costa ended up winning that, and Luke Rockhold, I think his whole part of his game plan, which is he left it when he figured out that first round. I think if y'all remember, he tried to take him down, he couldn't, I think, in that fight, and he gave it up the whole fight.
So Costa looked very good against Robert Whitaker in his last fight, but still lost. Do y'all think that Costa's inactivity will come into play against Strickland, who's been pretty active over the past few years? Y'all don't think that will be a factor, Admire?
No, I mean, he just fought Whitaker like 3 months ago. So, I mean, that's recently active. I think that any ring rust, shown through in that and would be gone by this fight.
Yeah, but that's one fight. So before that fight, last time he fought was almost 2 years ago, 2022. He's had a streak since 2017. Last time he put together like multiple fights in a year was 2017. Fought once in 2018, once in 2019, once in 2020, once in 2021. But you're saying that he probably shook off the rust in that one fight against Whitaker?
I mean, probably. I mean, he's still fresh. It was only 3 months ago. So he's still pretty fresh. And on top of that, though, I kind of think that what we talked about with Strickland, his personality as a person, I think I would think that the UFC wants to kind of wash him away, kind of calm him down, get him out of the spotlight. And, I think that they're thinking maybe Costa's the one to get him out of there, give him another loss. But also, could you imagine the buildup of a Costa DDP fight? There's going to be a lot of trash talk. The guys are, both super built, super muscular, throw heavy hands, very skilled in every which way. So, I mean, it sets up a really good fight, too. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons that, Costa is in the position that he's in.
Steve, what do you think? You think his inactivity will come into play?
Maybe if we didn't see him before this fight, and he's been on it, been missing from action. But like Admire said, we just seen him with Whitaker, and he left off on a good foot, although he lost. So I think the rust was shown his last fight, if there was, and if that was rust, we saw, then I think we can see good things this fight. That's if I don't know if he sitting on the couch eating bad and then decided to take this fight, which I highly doubt. I think he's stayed with it after that Whitaker loss, and I think he's in shape. And I think this is the best shape, more than those 2 years we haven't seen him. This last fight since the Whitaker.
Yeah, I don't know. Like y'all said, he did just fight, but I don't know. it could go either way as far as like just him having that cage time, especially live cage time in an actual fight. But looking at the other side of things, both of y'all picked Costa. I picked Strickland. If Strickland were to win this fight, do y'all think he has to do it in impressive fashion? Because this guy talks a big game. He talks about wanting to get a murder in the cage, but every time he usually gets a win, it's usually a decision win. You don't see him really finish people in the cage. So what do y'all think? Y'all think he has to do this in impressive fashion? I'll start with you, Admire.
Yeah, I mean, I think any win pretty much that Strickland has going forward needs to be in an impressive fashion if he wants to get back to the belt. And, you can talk crazy shit and do crazy things if you're the best, but you can't talk crazy shit and do crazy things if you barely win or lose. So I don't even know if say he gets a split decision win here. I don't even know if the UFC would throw him another title fight if he just gets a split decision. Because I don't know how heavy they want to promote him.
Yeah, I think if he did get a split decision, they would probably try to push for Adesanya to come back. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, Steve? You think he has to do it in impressive fashion if he does win?
Definitely. Killer intent. Like you say, he wants to catch one in the cage. You don't fight like it. And the most killer intent I think I've seen him have is when Israel Adesanya was hurt. And it was all right, but
he still didn't finish
we
him.
seen worse. Yeah. We seen worse when people were compromised. So I just haven't seen it. We've seen him disappointed with himself after that. What was that fight right before the Adesanya fight? He was disappointed in that fight.
I mean, it was the Magomedov fight. He finished that guy, but he was like an unranked guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fight before that was Imavov was a decision.
Yeah, that was the one, Imavov, he was disappointed with. So I think he needs to get in there and matter of fact, he can do what he wants. But if you're going to talk all that, you got to have killer instinct. Everybody that's been champion, in the recents actually maybe had some vicious KOs or some highlights. And Strickland is not one of my favorite champions at all. He probably one of the bottom. On the bottom.
like
quite honest.
Like ever in the history of UFC?
We can probably pick worse than that, but right now, as far as I can't think of a significant moment other than him stunning somebody who is amazing. Which if he stunned somebody that was regular, we wouldn't be talking about it. So he kind of got it started off of Israel. So I don't know.
And I think we can all agree that Israel did not look like himself that night either. So, it's probably chances that, Strickland had his best night while Izzy had his worst night, and it just happened to happen that way. 9 times out of 10, Izzy's going to beat him.
Yeah, we might have to do a special, worst UFC champions ever. Strickland may be up there, especially if he doesn't get the belt back, because he has a bunch of crazy sound bites, but as far as strictly in cage, not that impressive as far as champions goes. You can't discredit the fights he took before that, but he didn't defend the belt, and like you said, it was a dominant win against Izzy, but he caught him and didn't finish him, but he didn't defend the belt, so. Yeah, he probably is up there as far as one of my least favorite champions as well.
Right, and if you look at the middleweight rankings, Strickland really hasn't fought a lot of the guys in the top 10. He I think his mouth got him up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was circumstance. I think somebody dropped out of that Izzy fight, or Whitaker didn't want to take it, or something happened where he was able to be like a replacement for that fight. I can't recall.
I was about to say, I felt that he lucked out. I couldn't remember the scenario, but yeah, he wouldn't even be in that position.
Yeah, somebody dropped out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Was it Robert Whitaker that got injured or something?
It was somebody that got hurt that fight. I can't recall off the top of my head, but because I remember when they made it, I was like, oh, okay, so it's not saying on the page of if he was if it was a replacement or not, but Cannonier served as backup on the fight. But yeah, I remember when Strickland slipped in there. I'm like, I didn't have much faith in them. I'm like, all right, they just trying to pop a ratings buy or whatever. But he showed improved, but didn't defend it. But it's definitely an intriguing co-main event. A lot of title implications on the line, so that should be a fun one. Fellas, let's talk about the main event on this one. For the undisputed lightweight championship, we have your champion Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Diamond Poirier. Admire, what say you? What are your thoughts on this fight?
Man, this one is tough. I've been watching stuff all day, just watching like a lot of the big journalist picks, a lot of the other fighters picks, and it's pretty much split down the middle. A lot of people think Dustin can knock him out, which, his Makhachev's one loss, it's ranked as a KO, but I rewatched that fight earlier today. He did get knocked down. He got hit very hard, but he wasn't out by any means. So, I mean, he can be stunned, but we know Makhachev is just amazing on the ground. But knowing that Makhachev is amazing on the ground, Poirier has very crisp boxing. So he probably spent his whole camp doing nothing but wrestling. And he's got a lot of submission wins to his record. Size-wise, they're about the same size physically. This is hard, man. Poirier lost to Gaethje with the head kick. Makhachev won his last fight with a head kick. Fuck. Give me the upset. Give me Poirier. And he's a big underdog.
What are the odds?
Makhachev is a minus 675.
Wow.
And Poirier is a plus 490.
Wow. I'm gonna be in Vegas this weekend. I could put some money down for you.
No, I ain't putting money on it, man. I learned from UFC 300. I got whooped. You going to Vegas with Rucker?
Yeah, I'll be down there. Should be a fun time. What are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Poirier, he does have potential. His boxing, if I can't remember the highlights, Makhachev and Khabib, I always try to compare them. Poirier was catching Khabib a little bit with his boxing, like hard punches, real close. I have to look at Makhachev, see if he hits it hard.
Makhachev, I think his striking is better than Khabib's.
Yeah. Well, that leans me more to Makhachev because every time Poirier, I feel like no matter how much he, with his wrestling, he always, I don't know, gets caught, get his back taken, choked. I don't know. It seems like every time Poirier gets up there to that close championship, I feel like he has the UFC gods don't want him to achieve that for some reason. Plus, Makhachev is elite wrestling, like Khabib. I feel like he can dominate Poirier the same way. Just comparing who he fought, Charles Oliveira. I thought Oliveira would be more crafty. He can get taken down, but can get back on the feet. And we saw what happened there. Poirier's losses, been choked out lately. I'm going with Makhachev.
Okay, so you think he's gonna submit him, TKO him, or decision?
Man, that's the thing. Since you just said his striking's better than Khabib, that got me thinking both ways. I'm not sure, but more likely submission. How easily he slapped that arm triangle on Oliveira, that did surprise me. I thought Oliveira was going to leave a tube choke or at least slip 2 fingers by the neck before he gets some air and he tapped. I think Poirier is way more substitutable to that than Oliveira. And Oliveira, we all already know it's off the charts with his jiu-jitsu. So,
man, I forgot Makhachev got a TKO against Bobby Green. So that tells you how good Makhachev's striking is, because Bobby Green's one of the best boxers.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned this, Steve, or you, y'all not mention 2 back-to-back wins against Volkanovski too that Makhachev got.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is Makhachev got that head kick knockout against Volk, and then I think Dustin's last loss to Gaethje was a head kick knockout. So I don't know. It's a rocky story, man, for Poirier, and I'm probably betting more with my heart, not my head. I want to see Poirier do it because, like Steve mentioned, Poirier seems like he gets up there and something happens. This would be like the big finally.
Yeah, it would be a storybook finish for Poirier to finally climb on top of that mountain and, revel in the glory of winning the championship. But I don't think this is going to be a story that ends well for him. This come Saturday might be a little bit of a nightmare because I'm not picking against Makhachev. Like you said, he's Khabib's kind of protege and came out of the shadows of that gym after Khabib retired. Yeah, like I said, his striking's a little bit slicker than Khabib's, and same blueprint, just Dagestani wrestling. And I think he has the tools to beat Poirier in a few ways. I don't think it would be wise to stand up in front of Poirier the whole time. I think he needs to mix it up, show his striking and have his striking set up his wrestling and vice versa. Because, any given Saturday, somebody could go out there and knock somebody out, and Poirier has the hands to do it and the legs and feet to do it. Like you said, Admire, nobody picked, I don't know if either one of us picked them against St. Denis, but he was able to go in there and get it done against a rising superstar. But I don't know, man. Makhachev is tough, and I think Makhachev will get the job done. So Poirier, this will be his 3rd title opportunity at the Undisputed Lightweight Championship, 4th overall because he had an interim title fight. So
5th if you count the BMF.
Oh yeah, the BMF. He fought for that.
Yeah, him and Gaethje.
For some reason, I thought that was Gaethje and Holloway.
It was Gaethje and Holloway did it like a month ago, 2 months ago. No, a month ago.
Oh,
yeah, because right, Gaethje. Because remember,
you're right. That was for the BMF belt, and Gaethje was defending it. These fights, so many fights that happen. It's hard to keep track of them. I'm not counting that as a title fight though. It's a fake belt. You almost got me, am I? But he did fight for the BMF belt. So is this the end of the road for Poirier if he doesn't get the job done? Y'all think he retires?
I mean, we've talked about it with other fighters. It would be a good position for him to retire. He is getting up there in age. Poirier's 35. He's got a lot of fights under his belt. And even if he loses to Makhachev, I don't think that's really a strike against him. This goes into the talks that we have about, focus on the gym, focus on your side businesses, things like that while you're still good. If you lose this one, what are the odds you're going to make it back up to the top again? And the way we see Makhachev is if Makhachev wins, he's going to be up at the top for a long while. So we would have to think about, is Poirier really going to come back and beat Makhachev? We'll have to see Saturday night and see what kind of fight he puts up. To me, if he loses, I think that retirement would be the best bet for him.
What are your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I can say that because I can say Dana White gave him a big wild card by his position now. To me, now I'm really magnifying, but really paid attention. I think it's already kind of cheesy how he got his position to get his championship now. I know he's an older fighter. I know they try to position these older fighters to try to get a championship, but from what I'm looking at, he's lost. He lost against Oliveira, then won against Chandler, lost against Gaethje, and then won against Saint Denis. So, and then the championship opportunity now. I say if he doesn't get this easy opportunity or to skip the line, I think it would be done for him. Because I think it's already a favors done for him right now.
Yeah, he has nothing else to prove, I guess, except winning the title. But he's up there in age, like Admire says. I don't know if he wants to climb up that hill again if he loses, because it's hard training and waking up every day at the butt crack of dawn to go get your face knocked in at practice and whatnot. So I think I'm with y'all. I think this might be it if he doesn't win. And even though I picked Makhachev, it would be cool to see him kind of have a Cinderella type story and win that title and maybe try to defend it a couple times before retiring. But I don't know, that Makhachev hill is a tough one to climb. But
Yeah.
Go ahead, Admire.
Well, and right before we jumped on this stream, I was on TikTok, and Makhachev and Khabib came out and said they got a surprise for this fight. They said, just wait and see. We got a surprise for this fight. So it makes me think that Makhachev probably trained nothing but stand-up. You know, we know he's great on the ground. He probably trained nothing but stand-up for this. Just like Poirier probably trained nothing but the ground, you know. So I can see Makhachev trying to stand with him. And I think that, you know, I did pick Poirier. If Poirier has that success and knocks him out, I think it's because Makhachev's going to be too cocky and try to stand with him.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that if he kind of feels Poirier's power, he would revert back to wrestling, but you never know. Sometimes these fighters are too prideful. But do y'all think the pressure is more so on Poirier to finally get over the hump, or Makhachev to kind of keep that allure going on as kind of being not untouchable because he's lost one, but since that he's won how many fights in a row? So who's the pressure more so on, Makhachev or Poirier? I'll start with you, Admire.
The pressure's definitely on Poirier. You know, he's the vet. He's had multiple title fights, never, you know, sat at the top. So it's all on Poirier. Makhachev, I mean, he's already like ranked number one pound for pound. You know, he's already beat Volk twice, which was huge. He submitted Charles Oliveira. He's TKO Bobby Green. Like, Makhachev's already kind of submitted a small legacy, and it's still early and young in his career. So it's 100% on Poirier.
Steve?
Definitely Poirier. Like the last comment, not to be a hater to him, but I'm tired of getting so close, and then like you're going through them same hallways, you know, like y'all said 3 times, and it's almost like if somebody was a teenager and they kept on trying to pass their driver test and they kept failing. The third time they kept failing, and this 4th time, is he going to make it? And this is a fighting situation, you know, his career. So can only know what that feels like towards the end of his career too. I definitely say it's Poirier versus a young Makhachev who's already got a belt, achieved it. And only thing on his mind is, I guess, with any undefeated fighter is to be undefeated, which is always his mind since he's undefeated. So that's the only thing. Every fight he has to deal with as far as Makhachev.
I I think I'm gonna go against the grain on this one. Although this is a big, fight for Poirier, he's kind of fighting with house money because, like Admire said earlier, the odds are way in Makhachev's favor, and Makhachev, I think he wants to keep that allure of being the pound for pound number one guy. I think he's ranked number one on a lot of lists, even though I don't agree with that. I still think John Jones, but I digress. Yeah, I think, it's pressure on Makhachev to keep this winning streak going. He's at 13 right now. So I think Poirier may come in there loose playing with house money because he's not the favorite as far as Vegas odds go. So I think he's going to let it fly. But at the end of the day, I still think Makhachev's going to win. But I think he's still got some pressure on him. But we'll see, man. It's definitely going to be a fun weekend of fights. Admire, where are you going to be watching at?
I think I'm going to the races Saturday night, so I'm probably going to watch the replay on Sunday.
You and those races, how they been going, man? I know you said your girl's brother races as well.
I haven't got to go yet. Every time we've planned it so far, the weather ended up raining, and they don't race in the rain. So we're gonna give it a shot again this Saturday.
Steve, you watching it at your crib?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be watching it here. Rearranged a man cave, so that's definitely what I'm excited for. That's watching in my man cave.
That's what's up. I'm gonna be in Vegas, but it'll be on early over there. The fight start at 7, so maybe I could duck off and eat dinner and watch it, and then still have time to get ready to go out. But if I don't watch it Saturday night, definitely Sunday morning. But like I said, it's gonna be a fun weekend of fights, and we will be back next week to recap everything here on Haymaker Combat Sports. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on X. You see the tags at the bottom of the screen. Also, follow us on Spotify, iHeart, and Apple Podcasts as well. And like I said, we'll be back next week to recap all of these fights. But that'll do it here for us at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.